Hello and welcome to Wise Revise for Parents. This is session 1. My name is Mr. Wood, and in this session we're looking at 3 observations about students and their revision. Number 1, some ways of revising are more effective than others. Number 2, the most effective way to revise involves the most effort and the most concentration. And number 3, students will generally be more attracted to ways of revising that are least effective. So number 1, some ways of revising are effective and some are not. When I was 10 years old, my dad offered me an opportunity. He said, I'll give you and your brother £10 if you will smash up this coal shed that we'd found in our garage. I'll give you £10 if you smash it up and take the debris to the skip in a wheelbarrow. And my brother and I were like, yeah, 100%, we'll take that on. And we went out to the garage and there was the shed. This is quite a helpful box because we were about yay high and the coal shed was about this size. And my dad gave us this, it's like a mini sledgehammer, looked like a sledgehammer, small handle, and off we went to destroy this coal shed and take the bits and pieces off in the wheelbarrow. So we took turns, my brother and I, we took this sledgehammer looking device and we started just to, crack on hitting the top of the coal shed like this. And it was hard work and we were hitting it, and splinters were coming off and dust was coming down. A few bits hit us in the face. Probably should have been wearing goggles in 2019, but this was a few years back. Smashing away, hit. And we went on for maybe an hour and a bit. And after an hour and a bit, we'd taken a little chunk out of the top. We were pretty happy with ourselves. And my dad came out and he was really disappointed. He was like, "Oh, come on, guys! That's disappointing. How come you've only done this amount?" So we showed him our technique, and he said, "You're doing it all wrong." And he took the hammer from my brother and he swung it with one strike into the face of the side of the coal shed. And as it hit it, a crack started to appear. And then he hit it a second time and the crack moved further. And then on the third hit, half of the coal shed just fell apart instantly. We've been going about it completely the wrong way. We've spent a whole hour doing really ineffective coal shed destruction. The reason I tell you this story is because this is very similar to my observation of many of my students in the past. They've gone off to revise at home, they've spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of emotional energy trying to prepare for their exams, but sadly they've chosen very ineffective methods, and all that time and energy they put into it has been a bit of a waste. In 2013, a meta-study was carried out at a university in America. And what they did was they tested every single style and method of revision I've ever heard of, and they tested them to see their utility, how useful they were, how effective they were in getting learning to stick in a student's mind so they could take a test later on. It was very shocking. The results were incredibly shocking indeed. And some of the methods that came up with incredibly low utility that were seen as very ineffective revision methods were highlighting, rereading, and making notes. Now, I'm not sure what you were told when you were at school, but these were 3 ways of revising that were encouraged for us as students as the 3 go-to. Make sure you've reread through everything, that you've highlighted the key terms, and that you've made your own notes on it, and that's going to help you in your revision. And although it's not a bad thing to do, it is ineffective of how you're spending your time and how you're spending your energy with how to revise. And the truth is that the most effective way to revise involves a lot of effort and it involves a lot of concentration. You see, what came up highest in terms of the most effective way to revise is something called practice testing. Practice testing is simply testing yourself to see if you can remember something. So asking yourself a question in your head and answering it is practice testing, right through to taking a practice paper and marking it. Both examples of practice testing, they're at different ends of the spectrum. This is the best way to revise, and I have to tell my students at the start of each year that at times your revision is going to be tough and it is going to be boring, and that is going to be the nature of effective revision. And it should be no surprise to anyone. If you think about, if you had a friend who was about to start training for a marathon, you would imagine that you would advise them, if you were a marathon runner, it's going to be tough sometimes. You're not going to want to go out for a run sometimes, but if you want to do well in the marathon and you want to finish and get a time, then you need to just get out there even when you don't feel like doing it. There's going to be times when it's a bit monotonous. It applies to so many things, not just running a marathon, training in anything, learning a musical instrument, learning a new language, anything you want to do well in and you want to learn, you're going to be expecting times of monotony potentially and times when it is tough. The third observation is that students generally are attracted to methods of revising that are not effective. In my experience, teenagers, people in their early 20s, and actually a lot of us generally, will pick the path in life with the least resistance, will pick the easiest method. It's understandable that students will be attracted to methods of revising that take the least effort on their part and are potentially the more interesting ones. An embarrassing chapter in the history of the UK education system was when we promoted the idea of learning styles, and we said that some students learn in different ways and that's okay, so we should tailor our teaching to accommodate those learning styles. That's been debunked massively since then, and that's not something we promote in schools anymore. The fact is all students can learn in all ways, and some methods are more effective than others, even if the students aren't enjoying those as much as they might some others. As Professor Rob Coe from Durham University has said, that learning occurs when students have to think hard. When students are thinking hard and they're having to really process complex ideas, that is when learning is most likely to occur, and it's going to stick and move to that long-term memory so that students can bring that to mind when they need it. So as a parent, what do you do with this information? Why am I telling you this? In a lot of these videos, I'm going to be informing you all about revision, all about how the mind works, all about how learning occurs. Now, part of the reason for doing that is, as G.I. Joe says, once you know, knowing is half the battle. By informing you about effective revision techniques, you are then have a power at home that you might not have had otherwise, as to advise your children as to how to revise best. I'll be giving you some tips as well about how to apply that. But as we know with teenagers, there's no such thing as one size fits all. Some of the advice I might give you might not work for your specific child. It might be a case of trial and error. You might trial a couple of ideas I give you, and if they don't work, don't keep going with them. But after this video, you know about effective revision, and knowing is half the battle. Here are some thoughts. Effective revision can be boring and it can be difficult. So let's make everything that surrounds the revision itself really smooth and really easy. If you're able to, if you can set your child up with a station to revise from, perhaps a desk and some folders, some stationery, that goes such a long way in making the hard part easy. If they can have easy access to a place to work and a place to revise and everything they need, that's amazing. Even if it's simply a part of your dining room table that you say, this part is for you, this is where you're going to revise, we're giving you this part, and easy access to the materials they're going to need. There's going to be some difficult weeks ahead. There's going to be days where your child will not want to revise at all. But just being able to encourage them to say, just 20 minutes, just do 20 minutes of practice testing. Here's some cards. I can help you with it if you want. Will go a long way in helping them out. One idea I really love that I got from one of my revision heroes, Miss Michelle Miller, is to buy a cheap calendar, stick it on the wall, and get your child to put a big red X on any day when they've revised. And then when they're struggling, you can point them towards that calendar and say, look how well you're doing. You've done so much, you're doing so well. You're going in the right direction. There's going to be days where they stop their revision and they're going to say, it's just so difficult, I'm finding it so tough. And actually, that is amazing, that is great. If they're finding it difficult, then you know they're revising the right stuff. They're revising the stuff that they don't know already. That's what revision should be. Often, students are tempted to revise the wrong stuff. They revise the stuff they actually already know. If they're finding it difficult, you can encourage them and say, you're doing great, this is brilliant. If you're finding it difficult, it means you're definitely revising the stuff that you need to know. And then you need to be a bit like a supporter of a marathon runner, alongside them saying, you are doing so well, you've come so far. If you just keep on going, just keep on going, one step in front of the other, you're going to do so fantastically well. Thanks for listening today. In our next session, we're going to be looking at the teenage brain. Why do teenagers get emotional? Why do they make some bad decisions sometimes? Why are they so difficult to get up and out of bed in the morning? Stay tuned for that.